Welcome back to Coach Eichner's Math. Again, we're going to talk about our conclusions about our parallel lines. So let's look at figure 1 and figure 2 that we discussed earlier. And I know figure 1 has got parallel lines versus figure 2, which does not have parallel lines. So that is the difference. Figure 1, we have parallel lines. Okay, that is a fancy way to write parallel lines. Which angle pairs were congruent in both figures? Well, in both figures, we knew that our vertical angles were congruent in both, and we knew that our linear angles were supplemental in both. Okay? So what we need to notice here is going back to our charts, looking at our charts, it says when were the other angle pairs congruent or supplemental? Notice we didn't have a lot of correlation or a lot of congruent and supplemental angles when we were talking about figure 2, because these two lines, we'll call them line A and line B, do not work well together. We know that they're going to cross. We don't have the same path. So that means that they intersect the transversal with a different relationship, our transversal T. Versus our figure 1, where we have parallel lines, our transversal T intersects both lines with the same relationship because the two lines that they intersect are both traveling the same direction. So, when were the other angle pairs congruent or supplementary? When my lines were parallel. When line A and B were parallel. Okay, and that is the trick, guys. As we're going forward, we're going to be talking about these angle relationships, and we can name the angle relationships, but there is not much special about them unless we have parallel lines. So let's look down at example 1. Using the figure below, identify each angle pair and tell whether they are congruent or supplementary. So notice the very first thing I see is I see a set of parallel lines. Very important that we know that they are parallel. So angle 1 would be here. Angle 5 would be here. They are on alternate sides of my transversal, and they're both on the exterior, so we're going to say that they are alternate exterior angles. Okay, and the question is, are they congruent or are they supplementary? If you don't remember, you can look back at your chart, or you can look at your reasoning through here. I know that 1 and 7 are always going to be congruent because they're vertical angles. I know 3 and 5 are always congruent because they're vertical angles. Now, we talked about corresponding angles, how the top left and the top left should always be the same because they're in the same place with the same relationship of lines. Well, angle 1 and angle 5 are definitely congruent. Okay? Not supplementary. So, let's look down at angle 2 and angle 3. I'm going to go ahead and switch colors for you to help you out a little bit. Angle 2 will be right here. Angle 3 will be right here. So angle 2 and angle 3 are on the same side, and they are on the inside or the interior. Now, got two options. Every angle pair, when we are talking about parallel lines, every angle pair from that transversal have a relationship. They are going to be congruent or supplementary every time. So in this case, if you look at it, angle 1 and angle 3 would match up. Those are corresponding to each other, which would make angle 2 and angle 3 supplementary because angle 3 would be the same as angle 1. Angle 1 and angle 2 would add up to 180 degrees. Supplementary, not congruent. Okay, pretty simple so far. Let's go ahead and look down at example 2. Now we're going to take what we know and we're going to apply it. Okay, and as we go to apply this, I want to show you a little trick. This is something that has been dubbed Harry Potter's scar by some of my former students, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vertical angles and I'm going to mark them. And then I'm going to take the corresponding angle to angle 1. I'm going to mark it down here. And I'm going to mark the vertical angle with that. Now we know from up top, the vertical angles are always congruent. Okay, vertical angles are always congruent. So now that I've marked those congruent, notice all 4 of those would go together. And they make kind of that zigzag that was famous for Harry Potter's scar. So as we look at it, we know angle 3 is 115, which tells me angle 1 is 115. Angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. Angle 3 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles. So we know those are congruent. We would say the measure of angle 5 is 115. To me, the easiest way is I marked all 4 that are going to be congruent. So I'm going to look at angle 1. Now they tell me on number 2, switch back colors on you. Angle 2, they tell me that angle 1 is 130. They want me to find angle 7. Well, angle 1 and angle 7 are both marked with that purple, which means that they are going to be congruent. So angle 1 and angle 7 would both be 130 degrees. So far, so good. Looking at it again, this time we've got angle 8. Angle 8 is down here, and they tell me angle 8 is 47 degrees. Well, angle 8 is 47 degrees, and they ask me to find angle 3. Notice this one angle 8 does not have any purple. Angle 3 does have purple, which means that they are no longer going to be congruent. They will be supplementary. So, in order to be supplementary, I'm going to say measure of angle 8 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180, or 47 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180, or the measure of angle 3 equals 133 degrees. And right there is us taking and applying our angle pairs. Again, the most important part about our conclusion, figure 1 and figure 2 are different because of the parallel lines. Vertical angles are always going to be congruent. Linear angles are always going to be supplementary. And when I know that my 2 lines that are cut by my transversal are parallel, that gives me the ability to start talking about all those properties that we did on the very first part as we were going through and comparing. It allows me to talk about my congruent angles and my supplemental angles. So, this has been Coach Agaton Math. Hope you have a great rest of your day.